Xin Zhao is dead and his body is now controlled by the new Darkin, Zaahen. But his story is quite unique. Why is Zaahen different from other Darkin? What secrets does his past hold? And how he is connected to LeBlanc? Today we'll reveal all of Zaahen's hidden lore details, from his glory as the Silverwing God to his final form. Let us start with the days of his greatest glory. Zaahen was one of the first descended. Before him lay the lands that would later become Shurima, a great empire. The ritual battle drums sounded around him and tens of thousands of people applauded him. Among them stood majestic warrior gods in beautiful armor, rejoicing that Zaahen had joined them. Like everyone else, he initially looked like an ordinary human, but after ascension, all mortals take on the form of an animal. In Zaahen's case, he took on a form of a bird, after which he became known as the Silverwing God. After some time, Zaahen, in addition to the title of Ascended, was also appointed Sun Priest, someone worthy of performing ascension rituals. Zaahen led many of those tasks. A sense of duty and honor is what brought him there and helped him take his place among the gods. He came to the candidates in the last days of their mortal lives, testified that they were worthy of ascension, and swore to guide them on their path to eternity. Among those were young and determined Rast, who after transforming into a Darkin was imprisoned in a scythe, which was later found by Cain. Zalani, once a good woman tired of war, but after becoming a Darkin, she spread hemomancy among other Darkin to subjugate them all. Varus, who after being freed from the Darkin weapon, took the bodies of Valmar and Kai as his vessels. Setaka, the leader of the ascended host, to whom Zaahen swore allegiance at that time. However, disaster soon struck. The mages of Ikathia accidentally awakened the void which penetrated the material world. After the Ascended stopped the threat, their minds began to break down due to the madness they had experienced. With the fall of the Shuriman Empire, the Ascended lost their unity. Consumed by ambition, they proclaimed themselves gods and began to use forbidden blood magic to transform themselves. Thus, the heroic warriors became the Darkin, the fallen ones. As their alliance finally collapsed due to madness and lust for power, it led to the start of the Great Darkin War, which engulfed Runeterra. The war also did not spare Ionia, where all the key events unfold. The first lands were defended by the Kinko Order, among whom was Yunara. But as the war went on, the lands of Ionia fell. In desperation, Yunara went to the temple of her hometown to appeal to the one who was once revered as the Great Spirit, who, as we later learn, is Zaahen. At first, the spirit was silent, but when he learned that the Darkin were posing as the Kami, masking their destruction as divine intervention, he spoke. He agreed to help, but only on one condition: all his enemies must be Yunara's enemies. Meanwhile, the Temple of Kushan was the last line of defense for the Kinko Order that still stood, but even its enemies did not spare it. Soon, the Darkin Pra attacked Kushan with an army of followers. But then a savior appeared, defeating Pra and single-handedly destroying the entire army of Darkin followers. Then he introduced himself as Zaahen and revealed that he was also a Darkin. He told everyone that the Darkin were originally the Ascended, who fought for the Shuriman Emperor. But over time, he witnessed the Ascended succumb to darkness. Ionia was just another battlefield for them, because during the Great Wars, the Darkin fought for supremacy since they had no emperor. Seeing this, Zaahen could not stand idly by. He had already killed several of his brothers and sisters, and he was ready to do it again if necessary, even though each death broke his immortal heart more and more. Zaahen takes out a scroll on which Shalikar is visible. As we now know, it is in Sevir's possession, which takes us back to the events that took place at the very beginning of the Great Darkin War. After many Darkin gathered to discuss the war, they were attacked by the Twilight aspect Maisha, or Misha, as some say. That was Zoe's predecessor, who used Shalikar as a conduit for celestial magic and destroyed all the Darkin present. But this was not enough against the strongest. After that, the Twilight aspect taught mortals how to seal the Darkin in their weapons. This is exactly what is depicted on this parchment. The latter was distributed throughout the world to give mortals a chance to fight back. And carrying this message around the world, Zaahen traveled to Ionia, killing as many Darkin as he could. And it was there that he heard Yunara's plea for help. This is what made the Kinko consider him an ally, but they still had doubts. They had no guarantee that this was not some trick or conspiracy among the fallen to finally destroy the King Order and subjugate all of Ionia. Therefore, they came up with an alternative. The Eye of Twilight made a pact with Zaahen in which their fates became one. After that, Yunara was allowed to join forces with Zaahen to defeat the other Darkin. For nearly 3 years, Yunara and Zaahen fought off the invading gods. Thanks to the secret knowledge Zaahen brought from Shurima, they were able to defeat some of the Darkin and imprison them in their cursed weapons. One of the most significant battles was between Zaahen and Rost. They fought a long battle during which Rost, twisted by the madness of the Darkin, taunted Zaahen, urging him to join in the destruction of the world. After Rost inflicted a severe wound on Zaahen, he heard the cry of his companion, Yunara, and found strength to heal himself. At that moment, Zaahen's inner conflict was resolved. He accepted his new nature but rejected the Darkin's goal. Filled with rage and pain at their fall, Zaahen proclaimed, "We are not masters, we are the Darkin, and we must be destroyed." He decided that since his Darkin brothers could not be saved, he had to stop them, so he imprisoned Rost in a weapon. Zaahen then defeated Varus and imprisoned him in a weapon as well. Over here you can see all the Ionian spirits drawn to him. This is an awesome reference to the original Varus cinematic. The last enemy Zaahen faced was Zelani. She was the one who corrupted all the other Darkin with blood magic. Zelani's initial goal was to give the other Ascended this power to fight, and then use blood magic to subjugate them all to her will and become their goddess, ending the Darkin War. Although she failed to execute the second phase of her plan, she did manage to arm them with blood magic. This became a turning point. The Darkin began to use blood magic to strengthen and transform their bodies, which ultimately distanced them from their former heroic essence. Although Zaahen defeats Zelani by imprisoning her in blades, he cannot do so without being corrupted. That is why Yunara has been carefully observing and studying the Darkin for the past 3 years, to ensure that she can defeat Zaahen in the future if he ever betrays them. After all the Darkin were defeated, the Eye of Twilight made its decision. And since Zaahen had kept the agreement, he was allowed to leave in peace. But Zaahen would not allow this. He began to feel his humanity slipping away, and he feared that he too would eventually become a mad Darkin. In my opinion, these feelings came to him right after the fight with Zelani, which probably corrupted him. And so Zaahen voluntarily asked to be imprisoned in his weapon, just like all the other Darkin. He wanted to be placed where mortals could never reach him, and so the glaive in which he was imprisoned was placed in the Temple of Twilight, which was moved to the spiritual realm, and Yunara went there with him because she was the one who knew how to defeat him. Interestingly, in Ionian myths, this story is presented as the Shrine Maiden following her patron into the spiritual realm out of devotion, when in fact Yunara was there to control Zaahen. And here's where an interesting twist comes in. The one who knew the true story, LeBlanc, used that knowledge to her advantage. To distract everyone, LeBlanc used demons to invade the Temple of Twilight alongside Atakan. The weakening of the barrier caused not only the demons to move to the real world, but also Yunara, while Zaahen's glaive remained in the spiritual world. Thus, with an outsider entering the temple, the Darkin still posed a threat to the entire world. So Xin Zhao remained in Ionia to hold back Zaahen. So they all returned to Kushin, where they met another member of the Kinkou to help them reach the Temple of Twilight. But the problem was that the temple had disappeared again, returning to the spirit realm. Because of this, the only way left to enter it was through the Twilight Trial. After restoring their weapons, Xin Zhao and Yunara enter the spirit realm. There they face trials and eventually find themselves in the hall where Zaahen's glaive is located. And here we move on to the events of the Twilight's End cinematic. At the beginning of the cinematic, we hear Xin Zhao's conversation with Zaahen, which will then take place at the end of the video. But this conversation plays an important role right now in everything that happens from the very beginning of the cinematic. After that, we see Xin Zhao and Yunara enter the main hall of the temple. We have already seen this place in Xin Zhao's dark vision, where Zaahen's glaive was hidden inside a tree. We also saw this place in the real world after the end of the Great Darkin War, where Zaahen asked to be sealed inside his own weapon. Now Atakan has broken the tree and stolen the glaive, and LeBlanc's clone appears alongside him. The battle begins and we see Atakan's influence spread into the temple, just as we saw in Xin Zhao's vision. To defend against Atakan, Yunara uses her weapon, Ion Urna, which was given to her by Master Lao as a sign of her devotion. Centuries spent in the spiritual realm have made her a very powerful user of these artifacts. She uses her powers to subdue Atakan, and then LeBlanc's chains appear, which Xin Zhao manages to block. Here you can see how the magic from the chains enters the spear. This is because it is made of a special Damascene material called petricide, which is capable of absorbing any magic. After that, we see Xin Zhao swinging his spear and dancing, which is a cool reference to the game because he does the same thing there. But as we see next, one of LeBlanc's attacks still gets through and stuns Yunara, which is also a reference to LeBlanc's ability in the game. We see Atakan sticking his glaive into the ground, a reminder that Atakan is not the bearer of a darkened weapon, but simply uses it as a normal weapon. And so Yunara was defeated, and since there was no one left who could defeat Atakan and LeBlanc, Xin Zhao was forced to grab the darkened glaive. This was a critical moment. When a mortal being touches such a weapon, a darken's essence gains the ability to take possession of their body. As a result, we find ourselves inside the glaive in Zaahen's mind, where the conversation we heard at the beginning of the cinematic unfolds. We see that Zaahen's mind looks like a vast desert. This location is a reference to his origins in Shurima and the centuries he spent in complete solitude. Here, the cinematic reveals Zaahen's human form for the first time. This is his pure soul, his original mortal appearance, because all Darkin were ascended, and all ascended were mortal. The frame shows that the desert sand is stained with black puddles, symbolizing the influence of Atakan, which Zaahen is literally infested with. This is confirmed by Xin Zhao's words. Even if Zaahen remains passive, his power will inevitably be used for evil. That is why Xin Zhao came here with one goal in mind, to stop this. Zaahen responds to his proposal by saying that Xin Zhao does not understand the price of his words. After all, by taking the glaive, Xin Zhao condemns himself to self-sacrifice. This phrase resonates deeply with Zaahen, as he himself made such a choice in the past. He voluntarily sealed himself away to protect the world from his destructive power. Now Xin Zhao is asking him to do the same, but for good. Meanwhile, Xin Zhao is no longer able to restrain Atakan, who first raised the glaive, and he begs Zaahen to take his body in help, as without a physical vessel, Zaahen is unable to destroy Atakan. Xin Zhao extends his spear and Zaahen takes it. The eye on the glaive glows red, expelling Atakan's influence. Zaahen's face is filled with deep sorrow. This is because in order to save the world once again, he must destroy the soul of a worthy warrior, the greatest price he could pay. He does what must be done. Xin Zhao disappears completely, his body and soul destroyed. This painful moment echoes the tragedy described in the motion comic The Truth, where the murder of his own darkened brothers relentlessly broke Zaahen's heart. And now the same thing is happening again. Xin Zhao's body begins to transform. His armor changes, horns appear, and scales cover his hands. Xin Zhao's spirit scatters into petals, and now his face is worn by Zaahen, sorta kind of, and the eye of the glaive shines on his forehead, where the sign of the sun once was. The newly formed Zaahen delivers a single powerful blow that destroys Atakan and dispels LeBlanc's clone. Although LeBlanc disappears only as a shadow, a satisfied smile appears on her face, which is explained at the very end of the cinematic. Freed from his restraint, Zaahen uses Xin Zhao's body. This part of the scene ends with Zaahen and Yunara reuniting, looking at each other after centuries of separation. We don't really know what will happen to Zaahen after that, and we'll have to wait for future lore updates. But there is a very interesting twist at the end of this cinematic. LeBlanc and Vladimir watch as Atakan's helmet crumbles, confirming that the demon has been destroyed. LeBlanc feels genuine joy as she has seen with her own eyes that demons can be killed. This revelation is key to her main goal, the destruction of the demon Swain, as indicated by the raven of Swain on the wall. Although Swain constantly interferes with LeBlanc's plans, who technically seeks to protect the world from Mordekaiser and gain power at the same time, Swain must be eliminated in order for her to achieve her goals. Now she knows that Darkin have the power to kill demons. This knowledge was the real reason why LeBlanc was so desperate to get her hands on a Darkin weapon. In my opinion, this is a very interesting turn of events, and we'll have to wait and see where it all leads. Finally, I'd like to share with you guys some highly interesting lore facts about Zaahen's appearance that I noticed. When Zaahen took control of Xin Zhao's body, his appearance retained the features of the warrior. His face and overall physique remained unchanged. Zaahen simply took possession of the shell without distorting it. This happened because he did not encounter any resistance. This contrasts sharply with other Darkins such as Aatrox, whose body looks monstrous because he had to fight for dominance over his vessel. In Zaahen's case, the exchange was clean and voluntary on Xin Zhao's part. The main visual evidence of this clean transition is the eye on Zaahen's forehead. Usually when the Darkin takes over a body of a vessel, the Darkin's soul still resides in the weapon, often symbolized by a part of it. Like Naafiri's eyes on the dagger, Rost's eye on the scythe, Aatrox's heart in the blade. However, if you take a look at Zaahen's glaive now, the eye is not there. There is only empty space. Previously, when Atakan held the weapon, Zaahen's eye glowed inside the glaive. After Zaahen entered Xin Zhao's body with his consent, the eye disappeared from the weapon and appeared on the forehead of its new bearer. This eye is the last physical remnant of Zaahen's original body and serves as a symbol of his complete control over his new physical shell. Beyond lore details, Zaahen has numerous references to Xin Zhao in gameplay and animations. If you compare illustrations of Zaahen and Xin Zhao, although the posture of the rest of the body does not match, you can see that Zaahen references the same weapon holding pose as Xin Zhao. In the game itself, Zaahen's dance demonstrates spear training techniques performed by Xin Zhao. You can also notice similarities in the recall animation. Also, like Xin Zhao, Zaahen is a champion heavily focused on auto attacks and has very similar skills. This concludes our review of Zaahen's lore. I really liked how Riot skillfully incorporated him into the overall story and showed his interaction with other champions. And the final cinematic of the season is beyond praise. For me, it is undoubtedly one of the best League of Legends cinematic I have ever seen. What do you guys think? Did Zaahen's lore live up to your expectations or not? How did you like the final cinematic, and do you think it was a worthy conclusion to this storyline? Be sure to share your impressions in the comments. And if you like this video, please support us with a like and a subscription. We would really appreciate it. See you next time over a mug of the finest ale in all of Runeterra.